The passenger in seat 14C had stopped breathing. Captain Ray Mitchell felt the vibration through the yoke before he heard the call from the cabin. His co-pilot Sarah Chen turned to him, her face pale in the cockpit lights. Medical emergency, cardiac arrest, flight attendants starting CPR. Ray's hands stayed steady on the controls. Flight 447 from Chicago to London, 216 souls on board, 5 hours over the Atlantic, no airports within reach. How long, he asked. Just now, male passenger mid-50s. Ray's jaw tightened. He knew what this meant. 30,000 feet above the ocean, no hospital, no ambulance, just a metal tube cutting through darkness and whatever help they could give. Behind him, the cabin was chaos he couldn't see but could imagine. Flight attendants working, passengers praying, someone's father or husband or son dying in an airplane seat. Sarah, take the controls, I'm going back. She looked at him. Ray, you can't leave the cockpit during. I can and I am. He unbuckled and moved to the door. In 32 years of flying, he'd never left his seat during a medical emergency. Captains didn't do that. Captains stayed at the controls. Captains gave orders from behind a locked door. But Ray wasn't just a captain. The cabin was exactly as he'd pictured. A man slumped in his seat, his wife sobbing beside him, 2 flight attendants doing compressions, their faces tight with fear and effort, a young doctor from the passenger manifest trying to find a pulse. Ray pushed through. How long has he been down? The doctor looked up. 3 minutes, maybe 4, we have the AED but. Move aside. Ray took over compressions, his hands locked together, his shoulders aligned over the man's chest. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 more. The other passengers watched, some filmed on phones, others looked away. The AED beeped, analyzing rhythm, do not touch patient. Everyone froze. Shock advised. Ray placed the pads, cleared the area, pressed the button. The man's body jerked. Nothing. Ray went back to compressions, his arms burned, sweat ran down his face. He'd done this before, not in an airplane, not in dress blues and captain's stripes, but in mud and blood and places where death came easy. Come on, he whispered, stay with me. Another shock, another rhythm check. Still nothing. The wife was screaming now, the doctor was shaking his head. The flight attendants looked at Ray like he was supposed to have an answer. He didn't stop. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, his mind went somewhere else. Somewhere hot and loud, where he'd learned that you don't quit until someone orders you to quit, and sometimes not even then. Captain, it's been 12 minutes. The doctor's voice was soft, gentle, the voice you use when it's over. Ray kept going. Captain Mitchell. Not yet. 15 minutes, his hands were numb, his shoulders screaming, the passengers had stopped watching, even hope has a limit. Then the man coughed. A small sound, barely there. But Ray felt it through his hands, felt the chest rise on its own, felt life come back from wherever it had gone. The doctor lunged forward with a stethoscope. I've got a pulse, weak but steady. The cabin erupted, people crying, clapping, praying out loud. Ray sat back against the seats, his whole body shook. The man was breathing, his color was returning, his wife was holding his hand, saying his name over and over. Get oxygen on him, Ray said. Keep monitoring vitals. Sarah, I need the nearest airport with advanced medical. He stood up, his legs were weak, he'd just brought a man back from the dead at 30,000 feet, and now he had to land a plane. But as he turned toward the cockpit, he saw something that made him stop. A man in the back row, late 60s, white hair, Marine Corps cap, staring at Ray with an expression that wasn't gratitude or relief. It was recognition. Ray met his eyes for just a second, then he walked back to the cockpit. Sarah had already diverted to Reykjavik, 40 minutes out. Hell of a thing, Captain, she said. Ray strapped back in, took the controls, his hands still shaking slightly. Just another day, he said. But it wasn't, because in that brief moment when he'd looked at the old Marine, he'd seen something else in the man's eyes. Questions. The landing was smooth. Emergency crews met them on the tarmac. The passenger was stable, conscious, talking to his wife. The doctor said he'd make it, said if Ray had stopped at 12 minutes he wouldn't have. 164 lives saved. That's what Sarah called it later. Because if Ray had stayed in the cockpit, if he hadn't known what to do, if he'd given up when the doctor said to, they'd have been flying a plane with a dead man in 14C and a broken crew for 5 more hours over the ocean. But Ray didn't think of it that way. He thought of the Marine in the back row. After the passengers deplaned, after the statements to the airport authorities, after the company commendations, Ray was walking through the empty terminal when he heard footsteps behind him. Captain Mitchell. Ray turned, it was the old Marine. Up close, Ray could see the weathered face, the straight posture, the eyes that had seen things. "Can I help you?" Ray asked. The man studied him for a long moment. That wasn't civilian CPR back there. Ray said nothing. The hand placement, the compression depth, the rhythm, the way you didn't quit when everyone else had quit. The old Marine stepped closer. "I've seen that before in a field hospital outside Fallujah, November 2004. Ray's chest tightened. "There was a corpsman there," the man continued. "Best I ever saw, saved men who should have died. We called him Shepherd because he brought them back from the valley." The terminal was empty now, just 2 men and the truth hanging between them. "You got the wrong guy," Ray said quietly. "Do I?" The Marine's eyes didn't waver. "Because that corpsman had the same hands, same voice, same look when he was bringing someone back, and he had a tattoo on his left forearm, small, easy to miss, a shepherd's crook with a cross." Ray's left hand moved slightly. His airline uniform had long sleeves, always long sleeves. "A lot of people have tattoos," Ray said. "Not that one." The Marine's voice was hard now, certain. "That was HM2 Raymond Mitchell, Navy Corpsman, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, the man who saved my life when I took shrapnel in the spine, the man who carried me 400 meters under fire, the man who died when his convoy hit an IED 3 weeks before his tour ended." The silence stretched between them. Ray looked at the old Marine, really looked at him, and then he saw it, the scar on the right side of his neck, the way he stood with his weight slightly favored to his left side. "Gunnery Sergeant Vickers," Ray said softly. The man's eyes filled. "You do remember." "I remember everyone." They stood there in the empty terminal, 2 men who'd bled in the same sand, who'd seen the same darkness. "They told us you died," Vickers said. "There was a memorial service, your name's on the wall at Camp Pendleton, your mother got a flag." Ray's throat tightened. "I know." "So what happened?" Ray looked away, toward the windows, toward the planes taking off into clean skies where the worst thing that happened was turbulence and crying bobbies. "I died," he said finally, "just not the way they thought." Vickers waited. "The IED was real," Ray continued. 3 men killed instantly. I was thrown clear, critical condition. They medevaced me to Landstuhl, then Walter Reed. I was in a coma for 6 weeks. When I woke up, I couldn't walk, couldn't use my right arm, had a traumatic brain injury they said would end my career. But you're here, you're flying. It took 3 years, surgery after surgery, physical therapy every day, learning to walk again, learning to think again, and somewhere in that time I realized something." Ray's voice dropped. "I couldn't go back, not to the Marines, not to the blood and the noise and the screaming. I'd saved 83 men in 2 tours, but I couldn't save myself from what it did to me." Vickers nodded slowly, understanding without judgment. "So I let them think I died," Ray said. "New name, new records, started over, got my pilot's license, worked my way up, became someone else." "But you're still a corpsman." Ray met his eyes, "Always. That's why you went back there, into the cabin, when every rule says you stay in the cockpit. I heard someone was dying, nothing else mattered." Vickers reached into his jacket, pulled out a phone. "I need to tell you something. When I saw what you did up there, I made a call to some old friends, people who remember HM2 Mitchell, people who have been looking for you." Ray's stomach dropped. "What did you do?" "What I should have done the moment I recognized you. I told them Shepherd was alive." Before Ray could respond, his phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "You need to see the news, now." Ray pulled up the airline's news feed. The top story made his blood run cold. "Hero pilot saves passenger's life at 30,000 feet, video goes viral." Someone had filmed it, the whole thing, Ray doing compressions, Ray refusing to quit, Ray bringing a dead man back to life. 40 million views in 2 hours. His face was everywhere. "Oh God," Ray whispered. Vickers put a hand on his shoulder. It's already happening, they know who you are now, not just the Marines, everyone. Ray's phone rang, unknown number, he answered. Captain Mitchell, this is Colonel Sarah Brennan, USMC Public Affairs. We need to speak with you immediately about. He hung up. Another call, another number. Mr. Mitchell, this is ABC News, we'd like to. He hung up again. Vickers was watching him carefully. You can't run from this. Watch me. Ray, the old Marine's voice was firm now, command voice. You saved 164 people today. That man in 14C has 3 kids, 6 grandchildren. They get to keep him because of you. And 30 years ago I got to meet my daughter, got to walk her down the aisle, got to hold my grandson. All because you carried me out of hell when you should have left me behind. That was different. How? Ray had no answer. His phone buzzed again, this time a video call from a number that made him freeze. A Navy prefix. He accepted it. The face that appeared was older but unmistakable. Captain James Doc Reynolds, senior medical officer, the man who'd trained Ray, the man who'd pinned his corpsman insignia on him 28 years ago. Hello, Ray, Doc said quietly. Ray's vision blurred. Sir. I've been looking for you for 15 years, ever since I found out the records were wrong, that you didn't die, that you just disappeared. I couldn't. I know what it does, I know what you saw, what you carried. Doc's voice was gentle. But son, you need to understand something. That video isn't just going viral because you saved a man's life. It's going viral because people recognize what they're seeing, real courage, real skill, real honor, and now they want to know who you are. I'm nobody, I'm just a pilot. You're HM2 Raymond Mitchell, Navy Cross recipient, Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts, the corpsman who had the highest save rate in Marine Corps history, the man who trained 40 other corpsmen who went on to save thousands more lives. Ray shook his head. Those medals were for someone who doesn't exist anymore. Those medals were for someone who existed today at 30,000 feet when you left your cockpit and brought a man back from death. Doc paused. Ray, in 1 hour, 2 F-35s are going to intercept your next flight. Do you know why? Ray's blood went cold. What? Because every pilot in naval aviation knows the call sign Shepherd. Every Marine knows the legend. And when they found out you were alive, when they found out you were flying commercial out of Chicago, they decided to do something about it. Sir, I don't understand. Your next flight is to San Diego, Flight 818. When you cross into California airspace, 2 F-35s from MCAS Miramar are going to escort you in, full honors. And when you land, there's going to be a ceremony, because the Marine Corps doesn't forget its heroes, even the ones who tried to disappear. Ray couldn't speak. You don't have to stay dead, son, Doc said softly. You did your time in hell, you earned your peace, but you also earned your place among us, and we'd like to welcome you home. The call ended. Ray stood there, phone in hand, mind spinning. Vickers was still beside him. You going to run? Ray thought about it, thought about changing his name again, disappearing again, starting over somewhere new. But he was tired. Tired of hiding, tired of pretending, tired of being half the man he used to be. No, he said finally, I'm going to fly to San Diego. 6 hours later, Ray stood in the cockpit of Flight 818. Sarah was beside him again. She knew now, everyone knew. Nervous, she asked. Terrified. You brought a man back from the dead yesterday. You can handle a couple fighter jets. Ray almost smiled. They crossed into California airspace at Angels 35. Ray's radio crackled. United 818, this is Dagger 1. We have you on radar, requesting permission to join formation. Ray's hands trembled on the yoke. Dagger 1, United 818, permission granted. 2 shapes appeared off the wingtips, F-35s, sleek and deadly and beautiful. United 818, Dagger 1, it's an honor to fly with you, Shepherd. Ray's voice broke. The honor is mine, Dagger 1. Dagger 2 here? My grandfather was 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, Fallujah. You saved his life. He died last year, but he told me about you, told me to find you. Thank you for letting us do this. Ray couldn't speak. Tears ran down his face. They flew like that all the way to San Diego, a commercial airliner escorted by 2 fighter jets, like a warrior coming home. When they landed, the tarmac was lined with people. Marines in dress blues, Navy corpsmen in their whites, veterans in old uniforms, families holding signs. "Welcome home, Shepard." Ray stepped off the plane, his legs were shaking, the crowd was silent. An old man in a wheelchair rolled forward. Ray recognized him immediately, Captain Reynolds, Doc. "Permission to come aboard, sir," Ray said softly. Doc smiled. "Permission granted, corpsman, welcome home." The crowd erupted. Ray stood there, surrounded by people he'd saved, people he'd trained, people who'd carried his legend through 15 years of silence. He wasn't hiding anymore. He wasn't running anymore. He was exactly where he'd always been, even when he didn't know it. He was a shepherd. And shepherds don't abandon their flock. That night at the ceremony, they presented Ray with a new medal, but not for valor, not for heroism. For service. Because true courage, the general said, isn't just in the battlefield, it's in showing up every day, in doing the right thing when no one's watching, in saving lives whether you're in a combat zone or a cockpit. HM2 Raymond Mitchell has served this country for 30 years, and he's still serving it today. Ray looked out at the crowd, at Vickers, at Doc, at the families, at the man from seat 14C standing with his wife and children. "I didn't do anything special," Ray said when it was his turn to speak. "I just couldn't walk away from someone who needed help. That's what corpsmen do, that's what we'll always do." The crowd stood as one. Because they understood. Real heroes don't seek glory, they don't want parades, they don't need recognition. They just show up when someone's dying. And they don't quit until that someone's breathing again. Ray Mitchell flew for 12 more years. Every flight he wore his uniform with the sleeves rolled up, the shepherd's crook tattoo visible on his left forearm. He never hid again. And he never stopped saving lives. And sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who tried to disappear, but real courage has a way of showing itself when the moment comes, when someone needs help, when quitting would be easier but staying is right. That's when you find out who someone really is, and that's when legends are born.